What's going on, everybody? This is Al from PlaybookGamer.com, and today we're going to talk about essential defensive pre-snap adjustments in NCAA Football '06. These are the ones that I like to use with my specific defense. A lot of it is 4-down base, 4-3, nickel, dime, that type of thing. But a lot of this could be effective in your 3-3-5 or your 3-4 defense. Now, before we talk about those, I want to mention below the video, I got timestamps so you can quick reference to certain parts of the video. I'll also have links to like the instruction manual where you can look up the button commands for all of these adjustments. I'll also have a link to a video related to those as well. And make sure you use the comment section. If you have a question, leave that. If you want to have a conversation about this particular topic, do that as well, and I'll definitely get back with you on that. Before we head onto the field, I want to point out a few things on the defensive play call screen. I'm going to reference several things on here that you need to be aware of. First of all, on the top left, this is your scoreboard. This also gives you information on everything else that's going on in the game. It has the time, it has the quarter, your play clock, your timeouts, the score, your down and distance, and what yard the offense is on. The big thing here is what down and distance is. I'm going to be saying a lot, 1st and 10. 3rd and short, 3rd and long. You'll know what I'm talking about when I say this. So you just need to be aware every time you pick a defensive play what the situation is. The other thing is the offensive personnel grouping that you're going to see on the next play. As you see here, looks like the offense is going to be in a 12 personnel look, 12 meaning 1 running back and 2 tight ends. But this tells me we know at least a couple tight ends will be on the field somewhere. 2 wide receivers will be somewhere out there as well. So you're also going to hear me say a lot of 1 tight end, 4 wide, 10 personnel, this, that, and the other. When I say those things, you know I am talking about this part right here. The first defensive adjustment I want to talk about are sub packages. Now, this is something I need to use more often, but I want to point these out. That way you're at least aware of them because they can be very useful, especially when you have certain talent at certain positions. You want to get them out on the field more. And I consider this a pre-snap adjustment pretty much. So here we are at the play call screen. If you hit the circle button, it's going to bring up a different package. You see right here it says package normal. This is the 4-3. For example, this is the base look, but if you hit the circle button, it's going to do a couple things. It's going to go to the first sub package. Linebacker flip. What that done was flip the 2 outside linebackers. You hit circle again, it flips your corners. There's a cornerback flip, and so on and so forth. There are sub packages for every single one of these formations. I just want you to be aware of this because technically, in my opinion, this is a pre-snap adjustment. The next thing I want to talk about is how I like to stop the run. Going forward with this video, I'm going to use a lot of 4-down lineman examples. I'm just a 4-3 guy. I've always have been. And what I mean by 4-down lineman, I got 4 defensive linemen out there. So I'm going to be using a whole lot of 4-3, some nickel, and some dime, and maybe a little 4-4. But that's just for example. If you were a 3-4 guy or a 3-3-5 guy, I think a lot of this is going to help you anyways. But in order for me to stop the run, especially going up against an impact halfback, here's what I like to do. A lot of it depends on what formation they're in. The first one I want to talk about is ace normal. This is an example of a balanced formation. When I mean balance, meaning there is no strength to one side of the ball. They got 2 skilled players on one side and 2 on the other with a halfback right behind the quarterback. So let's select the play from ace normal. And for me, we're going to use cover 2 man for the rest of these run stopping shifts. Okay, I'm going to go cover 2 man. And I don't have an adjustment. I want to point this out first because when it comes to a balanced set, I like where my defenders are at. I don't need to move anybody around. I know in my cover 2 man situation, this linebacker is on this tight end, this middle linebacker is on the halfback, and this outside linebacker is on the tight end. There's no reason for me to shift the linebackers to the left or to the right to pinch. For me, I just don't have to do that for any balanced set. Okay, so the next one I want to look at is another balanced set, but just a slightly different. And it's a slot or any formation where it is like a spread look with a couple wide receivers on one side and just one on the other. But technically, it's still a balanced set. You got 2 wide receivers to one side of the ball and technically 2 receivers to the other side of the ball. So let's go ahead and select that. Let's select the play, and we'll go again, cover 2 man. So in this situation, the AI or the CPU automatically moved my linebacker over to shade that wide receiver, as you see right there. But from here, I still don't feel like I need to shift anybody. I just don't think I need to. For me, my personal, the way I like to play defense, I don't really need to do that. Yes, I can move. I can do a shift. I can hit the R1 button, move the linebackers over this way if I really felt like they was going to run to the right. But this leaves kind of a gaping hole. So what I can do, we can hit square and L2 to bring it back. To me, I'm still feel like I'm in a good balanced situation in terms of shifting. I think I like where I am in this situation. So I've shown you two balanced looks to where I don't feel like I have to make really any adjustments at all when it comes to try to stopping the run. But what I like to do is once we get into some of these other formations is when you got to do some shifting, or at least I like to do it. For example, I normal. Let's select I normal. What you see here, now we got a fullback in the backfield instead of a tight end. He moves over here. Now they got a little bit more of a strength to one side of the ball. So let's go ahead and select I normal. We'll just pick a random play. And again, we're going to select cover 2 man. Okay. Now here's where I would want to shift. Now when it comes for me stopping the run, the only shifts I really like to make is shifting my linebackers. I like to leave my defensive linemen where they're at, but when it comes to this situation, I like to hit R1 to bring up your linebacker audibles or shifts, and I'm going to hit the right button. Now I feel like I am at a balanced situation with their offensive look. Okay. Yes, there's nothing stopping them from running to the left. They may be able to get a gain there, but more than likely they would prefer to run to their strong side. Also, if they pass the ball, I know we're talking about stopping the run, but if they pass the ball, at least you know this linebacker defending this tight end is closer to him now. And if he's going this way or whatnot, this is just what I like to do against this certain type of shift. Now, we can go ahead and stay here, and we can pretend that this fullback, we can do something like this. Let's pretend that is strong normal. I know strong normal, you got the fullback right here. But if the fullback is right here in a strong formation, I stick with the same shift. I like to shift him over. Now, when it comes to a weak formation, something like this, and I think I have it in my playbook, let's go ahead and, yes, there's weak normal. And I'm going to select cover 2 man. This is kind of a tricky situation. Yes, we got a full back in the backfield, and he's over here. To me, this is kind of a balanced look. Yes, you can, if you want to, shift your linebackers over like this, just because that tight end. But I still think you may be better off shifting and just probably leaving it like this. It's up to you. That's something you just need to play with. Up until this point, we've just talked about shifting our linebackers. Now, we're going to do some even more shifting. This is when you come across a formation like this where you got two tight ends on one side, and it's pretty obvious there is a severe strength to one side of the ball for them. So let's go ahead and select a play from ace big tight end wide receiver, for example. We'll go cover 2 man. If I left everything as is, and if they ran to the right, they got a serious one-man advantage that's tough for me to stop. So the easiest thing to do is shift your linebackers over. But for me, that's not good enough. When I see so much of a strength to one side like this, and it's usually these two tight end looks to one side, this is where I bring the defensive lineman into play. I'm going to hit L1 to bring up the lineman and hit right. And now I feel like I'm more lined up better to their formation. So anytime you see this particular formation, the other one in this game is the ace big twins, where you see the receiver is going to be over here. It's the same situation. When I see this formation, I like to shift both my defensive line and my linebackers over to that side, whether it's a run or a pass play. The next run stopping adjustment that I like to make is when I'm going up against a very spread set. In this example, we have a spread, 2 wide receivers on one side, 2 wide receivers on the other. For this example, I'm going to use nickel just because I want to get more speed out there to line up or match up with those receivers. I'm going to go ahead and select nickel, and we're going to go cover 2 man. And let's go ace spread, and let's go ace or halfback slam. As normal, the CPU likes to shade over any linebacker that's supposed to cover a wide receiver to that one side. Just wanted to point that out. Now, in this situation, I like to do 2 things, especially if I'm going cover 2 man, as you see right here. The first thing is my preference is to pinch the defensive line. I do not want to see this halfback have the easiest runs ever going up in these gaps. I'd rather him force it to the outside and let him make a play there. So what I like to do is hit the L1 button to bring up the line audibles or your shifts, and hit the down button. This pinches your defensive line. At least I feel a little bit better knowing I can probably stop the inside running just a little bit better. The only other adjustment I like to make here is I do not like the way this middle linebacker is standing when he's supposed to defend the halfback. What if they run to the left? He's already got like a two-step advantage on him in this situation. This is where coverage audibles come into play. And a coverage audible is if you hit triangle, this moves players around. It actually means if I'm going to hit the right button, it puts the man defender directly on top of the guy he's supposed to be defending. Notice our linebacker shift over directly above the halfback, and this linebacker is now directly over the wide receiver. At least now I feel like they can run left or right, and my linebacker can follow the halfback a little bit easier now compared to what we just saw. The next thing I want to talk about is cover one man situations. Up to this point, we've really talked about me using cover two, but what if the offense has run the ball on me pretty hard? Maybe I want to bring in an extra defender down in the box. That's where cover one comes into play, and here's how I like to handle cover one. Let's go ahead and hit 4-3, and let's go ahead and select dog gold. And cover one man is just your one high safety look with somebody else coming down to blitz or defend somebody. So let's go ahead and select dog gold, and let's go up against I formation twins, for example. Okay, let's just select halfback slam. Okay, so in this situation, they haven't done anything weird. They haven't flipped the play or nothing. When I'm seeing this, I always like to have my one high safety closer to the wide receivers. In this case, he is. So I don't have to do any flipping adjustment. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But what we're going to do here now, though, what's next? Well, they got in an I formation. They got the tight end over there, the fullback in the backfield. What we talked about before, let's shift those linebackers over. Now I feel a little bit better about this. Another thing I could do is that coverage audible. Now what we have is this strong safety. He is defending, it looks like, the fullback. You can either leave him back there or you can bring him down just a little bit. If you want to do that, especially if you're just a fear of them running the ball even better, you can hit triangle, coverage audible, and we can hit that right button again. And that brings him down just a little bit. That extra 2-yard step in can make all the difference from him making a play on 3rd and 1 compared to the offense getting an easy first down gain. So those are the big shifts I like to make when the offense doesn't do any hard flipping and they're in a twins look like this, and I just feel like I need to go cover one to stop the run. So what happens if the offense decides to flip their formation? Let's go ahead and do that. Let's hit the R2 button for them, and this flips their formation. Now their wide receivers are on the right side. Okay, let's go ahead and select a play for them, halfback slam, for example. We're going to stick with our same play. We're going to go 4-3 and a cover one. Pick either cover one. You could be crash gold, dog gold. For this example, we'll go dog gold. So they flip their formation. When I see the offense do that, the first thing I like to do is, again, I like to have my one high safety closer to the wide receiver side. In order for me to do this, we're going to flip the play. Okay, so we're going to hit square, and we're going to hit R2. Those safeties switch responsibilities. Now we got the strong safety over here. Yes, he's still going to the middle of the field, but I'd rather him be over here to defend the receivers as opposed to anything else, because the odds of the receivers making a catch compared to anybody else is a little bit higher. And yes, we're talking about stopping the run, but you never know. The offense may actually throw the ball on you too. So I like to make that one adjustment whenever I see a flipped formation. Okay, but what's the next thing we're going to do? Well, let's do an I formation look with the strength to the one side over here where the tight end is at. Let's shift our linebackers. Let's go R1. Let's shift them over to the left. Okay, and now I feel like my defense is lined up ready to defend pretty much anything at this point. One other thing I like to do with cover one is when we go up against a spread set and I'm blitzing a linebacker. So for example, let's use a nickel. Let's select the play from here. I want to select dog gold. If I'm going to blitz a linebacker like this, let's go ahead and select that play. Let's go up against a spread halfback slam. So up to this point, what have we talked about? When we're going up against a spread look like this, I always like to pinch my line. But I don't think that's necessary if you got a linebacker plugging up a gap, as we see right here. Since we have that, I don't think you have to do this because I think he's going to get in the way of a defender. I think they're going to get kind of bogged up a little bit. It's up to you if you want to. But if I got a linebacker blitzing like this, I think I'm okay with what I'm seeing right here. And I do not have to pinch because I'm sending those 5 guys. Okay, but at this point, what we can still do, we can do like a coverage audible and kind of bring somebody man up. That way you can at least feel like you can cover the run a little bit better. Now let's talk about quarters coverage. You see me use quarters coverage quite a bit. I like to use that as like a base defense. It could be against the run. It could be against the pass. Like when my cover 2 man isn't working, which what we've talked about up to this point, if my cover 1 isn't really working, or I like to go up against, an offense that's probably going to throw the ball a little bit more, I like to use quarters. Quarters is just a nice balanced defensive play / concept that I feel like I can work about against anything within reason. So let's just talk about some of the adjustments I like to make with quarters. Now, when I say quarters, what I mean is, let's use 4-3, for example. It's this right here, cover 4. Anytime you see a cover 4 in any of these formations, that's what I mean when I say quarters. So I'm going to select quarters, cover 4. And let's go up against a random play. Doesn't really matter. Let's go up against halfback dive. Okay, so when it comes to quarters, the first few adjustments I like to make is a coverage audible. Actually, there's 2 of them. We hit the triangle button. The first thing I want to do is, when I run quarters, I like to bump and run my cornerback. So I'm going to hit the down button once. Okay, and when I do that, now look at these corners. They are bump and running the receivers. This guy's off the line, so he's a little bit off of the corner. But this is a good example over here how much closer he is. I just feel like the defense works a little bit better here. And the reason why I do that is because Pat Narduzzi, when he made this defense very popular, Michigan State, he always bumped and run his corner. So that I just kind of done the same thing. Okay. The next thing I like to do is another coverage audible. I always like to do that man up look. So when we hit triangle and to the right, it's not going to show it here, but I did it. That just means somebody's going to be shifted over. Like, for example, we can go over to a slot. This may be a little bit better view of this. Let's go quarters, and let's go and select a slot. And I think this will work until counter trap, for example. So again, we're going to hit triangle down to bring our corners down, and we're going to hit triangle to the right to man up a receiver in the slot or whatever. I've just always done both. I think it just works out pretty well. Okay, so what happens is if I see any type of strength to one side on the line, here technically they got a tight end out there, which means they got a little bit of a strength run-wise to the right side. This is where I like to shift my defensive line. So I'm going to hit L1. I like to shift them over to the strong side. So all of what we talked about so far, a lot of it has been linebacker shifting when we use man. When it comes to quarters, I'm a big defensive line shifter. I like to have an overfront is what that's called. Okay, so those are the big 3 adjustments I like to make when it comes to quarters. Let's look at another example of quarters. Let's go up against like a twins look. I'm going to go ahead and select 4-3 again. We'll go quarters, and let's go up against a halfback slam, for example. And let's move our ball over to the left hash this time. Okay, so we're in quarters. So what are we going to do? First thing, we're going to hit triangle and down to bump and run our corners. We're also going to hit triangle and to the right to line them up like this. I want, again, a little man-up look. Even though it's zone, I like the little man-up look. Now we still got 7 guys in the box with this corner sitting over here, which I think is just really neat. But what's our last adjustment we like to make? We like to move our defensive line over to the strong side if there is one. Okay, so let's shift them over like this. Another example we can use with quarters if going up against a spread set, we'll go with the nickel. We can do dime. Let's just go ahead and do nickel. We'll call quarters. And let's go up against a spread, and we'll just go up against halfback slam. So what are our adjustments? The 2 coverage audibles, triangle down to bump and run our corners, and triangling over to man up. Okay? And in this situation, I still think it's no different than what we saw when we went up against a spread with cover 2 man. I still think it's in your best interest to pinch your defensive line like this. I want to talk about one zone blitz scenario that I use like 80% of the time when I want to run a zone blitz. So at the beginning of the video, we talked about the various personnel groupings you're going to see the offense use. And this is a 1 tight end look. Anytime I see at the play call screen 1 tight end, I like to do a zone blitz if I'm going up against a team that likes to pass a little bit. If it's a run-heavy team, I won't use this. But if it's a team that likes to throw at least somewhat, here's what I like to do personally. Okay, so let's go ahead and use 4-3, for example. And the specific play I really like to use is a crash 2. Pretty much a zone blitz with an outside blitz from a linebacker. So let's go ahead and select that play. And let's go up against a slot. And we'll go up against like a play action, for example. Let's go PA rollout. Okay. So we got our outside blitz from the linebacker right here. My preference is to have him blitz to the opposite side, the weak side of the formation. That's just one less offensive player that I have to deal with in order to get to the quarterback. So when I'm sitting in this situation, I think it's best if I flip my play. I'm going to hit square, and I'm going to hit R2. Now we got this guy blitzing right here. Okay, so in this situation, you can either leave it as is, or you can make it a little bit easier if you pretty much know they're going to play action or pass. What we can do is spread out our defensive line. This guarantees that this defensive lineman should occupy this tackle enough for this blitzer to come right on through. So at this point, and I haven't really talked about this in terms of selecting players, that's a different video for another day. It's up to you who you want to use. At this point, I can creep up and I can be ready for them to run that play action. So let's see if we can do that. That's what we can deal with right there. Now, they still make a great play, but here's what I'm talking about. We spread our line, we flipped our play to get our weak side blitz, a little bit more space to work with, and then we can get to the quarterback a little bit better. So let's try that again, okay? So we're going to flip our play just because I want that blitz come to the outside. I'm going to spread the defensive line. I'm going to creep up, and let's see if I can make a sack. That's what we're looking for right there. Again, we flip the play, weak side blitz. We're going to spread our line to help occupy that tackle. That way we got a free lane for that linebacker to make a play. Excellent play. I suggest you do this all the time. So what will happen, for example, is if the defense decides to flip their play, or the offense, I should say. So let's go ahead and flip their play. And they can go, for example, they can go deep outs. Let's go a drop back. This may not work as well, but I'm going to go 4-3, and we're going to do that outside zone blitz. Okay? Now they flipped our play, and we have our outside blitzer with a free release. We don't have to worry about a tight end right there getting our way or whoever. And to be honest, I like the shade of our defensive end. I honestly probably don't have to do a shift to the spreading out the defensive line, because what if they run the ball? Then you're really hurting. So you got to give or take somewhere. But in this case, I kind of like where we're at. You can do something like this, and maybe we can get to them in time. That's a good pickup by the line. But again, we got around the offensive line very quickly. This is the situation you want to see. Now it's just up to you to make a play on that quarterback. The next thing I want to talk about is how I like to handle third and long situations and which adjustments I like to make. Now, it's up to you what plays you like to go with on third and long. You could do cover 2 man, you could do quarters, you could do a cover 3, a this, a that, and the other. For this example, I'm going to use like my most patent one. So when it comes to third and long, we're pretty much expecting the offense to pass the ball. It just makes sense. If it's 3rd and 7 or more, pretty good chance they're going to throw it. So what we can do is let's pretend they're going to go in shotgun just because it's 3rd and long. They got to pass it. Let's go gun spread, for example, and they got to do a deep pass. Let's do corner strike over here, okay? In this case, I know this is going to be very specific, but this is nickel, and I like to use cover 3 cloud. I love cover 3 in general. You could do a basic cover 3, for example, this one, but again, call whatever you want. The big thing is, here's what I like to do, and I'm just using cover 3 cloud, for example. Okay, so in this situation, I know they are going to probably throw the ball. Okay, I normally like to control a defensive end. It's up to you who you want to control, but I'm going to control a defensive end, and what I like to do here is spread out the defensive line. This gives me an opportunity, a better opportunity to run inside of the right tackle or run to the outside of him, do a spin move, a swim move, just one of those particular situations. Okay, now this quarterback's pretty fast. So what we can do is pretend like he's a pretty slow guy. He may run away from this. But this is what I like to do. At this point, they can go ahead and snap it. If I can do something like this, don't get out of offsides. We can do something like this, and then I can get a sack. Okay? So what happens here, when I'm in this situation right here, look how much more of a gap I have on either side. Once the halfback's released, I can go to the outside, I can go to the inside. If I left that normal pinch as is, I think I would have a harder time going on the inside. It's up to you how you want to do it, but I like to spread out my defensive line just so I can isolate that tackle and the defensive end so I can make a play on the quarterback, as you see right here. One extra thing before we move on is the other situation, depending on the formation that offense is in. Let's go shotgun wide trips. Let me go ahead and select Cloud first. We'll stick with that. Shotgun wide trips, there's actually a strength to one side, as you can see. They got a tight end over there. See, if I spread out, what worries me here is if I'm controlling this guy right here, I think I would have a hard time getting to the quarterback because the tight end may block. Of course, we know the tackle will, so it just may be tough to kind of get through all this. What if the halfback blocked for me, or blocked me as well? It's just a tough road to hoe to get to that quarterback. So in this case, what you can do is probably go over to this guy over here and control him. Now, it's possible that it's, for whatever reason in this game, it's just so much easier to blitz, use or blitz, I should say, a defensive end on the right side over here than on the left. But I like to isolate this guy even more if I'm guaranteeing that they're probably going to pass it. So what I like to do is actually shift everybody over to the left. This guarantees that this defensive tackle is going to be on this guard to occupy him. This also means I will have an isolation situation on this offensive tackle. So I like to select that guy. Make sure I do this correctly. Try to do two controllers at once. Do something like this. And then we can get the sack. So you see what I'm doing here? We shifted to that side. I want that defensive tackle to occupy the guard to give me an isolation situation right here. In this case, I can go to the outside. I can go to the inside. And then you could just make your play from there. But none of this would have made a difference if I did not make any shifts. If I'd have done something like this, it's still kind of tough because now I'm kind of stuck. Yes, we got a sack. But look at me over here on this side right here. It's hard for me to go anywhere. It's too pinched up over there. It's forcing me to only make one decision. That's go to the outside, which I don't like. So it's just something to think about if you're going to make any type of adjustments on 3rd and long. At least get your defensive lineman in an isolated look to give you a better chance to make a sack. The last thing I want to talk about when it comes to 3rd and long, and it doesn't really have to pertain to 3rd and long, it just comes down to using a quarterback spy. So we're going up against a pretty good quarterback that can run the ball. And this could be 1st and 10, 2nd and 8, 3rd and forever. But in this situation, I really like to use this on 3rd and long. And we're going to use a quarterback spy. Now, when you're in your defensive formation, for example, we're going to go up against a 4 wide look shotgun spread. I'm going to use nickel, for example. And there are some plays, I know it doesn't show it here, but you're going to see like the little blue circle. That is a spy look, but I like to use zone in this situation. And there's not many zone plays with a spy in them. There are a few, but there's not many. Well, there's one example. This is spy to robber. I know it's not a blue icon, but that's because this guy's an impact player. But this kid right here, he can do a spy. He can do that just fine. You can use it. But if I love a cover 3, for example, I'm a big cover 3 guy on 3rd and long. And I love cover 3 cloud. You could create your own spies. So let's use my favorite 3rd down format or play, cover 3 cloud. And let's go up against a deep play on offense. So as you can see here, we don't have any spies. But what you can do is create your own spy. I can hit L1 and circle. And this is going to make this guy a spy. So if I hit circle, now he is a spy. The reason why I chose him is because this quarterback is a right-handed quarterback. If you're going up against a right-handed quarterback, 90% of the time he's going to run to his right. If you're going up against Vince Young, or not Vince Young, he's not a lefty, but if you're going up against any lefty quarterback, he's probably going to run to his left, but we're going up against a righty quarterback. So when I do this, I can select somebody else to control, and we can do this, and the quarterback didn't run, of course, but at least what we have here is this situation. If the quarterback decides to run and he's a righty, he's probably going to run to his right. We got somebody sitting there waiting on him. Now, the only downside to this is I don't have an example in front of me, But a lot of times sometimes that spy defender does a crappy job of actually spying. This quarterback can run right by him, and that spy right there is just going to stand there to look at him. So if you're not a big fan of the spy itself, what you can do, let's go ahead and select cover 3 cloud again. We'll go up against another deeper play. Let's go corner strike. We can spread out to isolate. What you could do is make your own spy by doing it yourself. So I'm controlling him. I'm not going to do that little audible we just done with the spy. I'm going to just sit right here and just wait on him, just in case. Now, in this case, the quarterback didn't run, but my point is, I control that guy. I decide, hey, I could go blitz him if I wanted to. I could sit back in coverage. In this situation, I'm afraid that he's going to run the ball. So it's easier for me to go up against a right-handed quarterback, control this guy myself, and then just kind of sit there and wait and see what he does. If he runs, I feel like I got a better chance of making a play than that CPU spy look that we just showed. The next thing I want to talk about is your third and shorts, your fourth and shorts, your goal line situation. Okay, now whenever we go up against that particular situation, the offense, a lot of times the CPU loves to use goal line. Unless they got another humongous formation in their playbook, they may use it. But a lot of times when it's third or fourth and short or goal line or whatever, they love to use this formation. So we'll select that and we'll go halfback ISO, but we're not going to pick a play just yet. What I like to do is go goal line myself. Now, for the purposes of this video, I'm not going to just, I like to use 2 different plays. I'll just go ahead and tell you now. Dog blitz is when I know they're going to run the ball. They're going to impact halfback. They've got a terrible passing game, that type of situation. Or if it's balanced or they like to throw the ball, I like to use man lock. Either way, I'm going to select man lock. And let's go up against, a particular run. But what I want to point out to you is if they're going to run the ball, look at the plays that are in this particular formation. The vast majority of the run plays are to the right side or to the strong side. Fullback dive is like the only one I think that's onto the weak side. But this on to the strong side. Then we have triple option, strong side. Fullback tackle, strong side. Halfback corner, strong side. Fullback blast, strong. Halfback tackle, strong side. Halfback lead toss, strong side. Halfback sting, strong side. Quarterback sneak, strong side. Tight end around is the little faker. This is a really cool play, by the way. But you get my point. The vast majority of these runs are to the strong side. So if they went halfback ISO, there's just a good chance they are going to run to that strong side. Okay? Now let's talk about the adjustment to this. What I like to do, whether I'm using man lock or that dog blitz, I shift both the defensive line and the linebackers to the strong side. So I'm going to go line to the right. I'm going to go linebackers to the right. And they may play action. They may run to the left. It's spare, or it's rare to see them do that. But I'm trying to increase my odds of going up against a play that I know they're going to run. And as we just saw, most of the runs in that formation are to the strong side. I don't care if they flip. They love to move this tight end over. That doesn't scare me. I still don't make the change. Because what will happen is a lot of the times they'll still run to that strong side. As such right there. Okay? So again, let's go and just select another one. So let's pretend we're going up against an incredible impact halfback. Let's go goal line. And dog blitz. I just feel like they're probably going to run the ball. Now, if you're going to go dog blitz, if they go play action, you're probably screwed. You're probably going to get a big gain for a touchdown. But I'm going to go dog blitz, and they're going to go goal line. And, again, just probably a right side, strong side run. In this case, I always shift everybody to the right side, and that's all I need to do. And I think I've increased my odds of making a really good stop. The last thing I want to talk about is the Hail Mary situation. It's at the end of the half. There's one play left. There's like 5 seconds to go. The CPU is probably going to call a Hail Mary. And let's just look at the 3 Hail Mary plays. There's only 3 of them. And they're from different formations. You got gun 5 wide, gun 2 back slot, and gun spread. But they all do the same thing. So in this situation, let's go ahead and just select the Hail Mary. What I like to do is if it's nickel, if you got terrible corners, you may want to do nickel or less, but they're going to have 3 to 5 wide receivers out there. For this example, let's pretend we got some decent enough corners. I'm going to call dime. What I love to do is go cover 2 man. I do not want to leave anybody wide open. One of the downsides of running a zone play is somebody can technically be wide open. or at least in a one-on-one situation with a safety, I prefer a double team across the board, and cover 2 man gives me that. Okay, so let's select square, cover 2 man, and let's bring this back to the 50-yard line. So what I like to do here is a couple of coverage audibles. We've done several of these before, but this one is a brand new one. Let's go hit triangle, and let's hit the up button. Prevent, just back everybody up. And we're also going to hit triangle to the right, which we've called this a bunch of times already. I want everybody to man up on everybody else. The last thing I want to do is I want to spread out my defensive line. This goes back to the 3rd and long situation. I want a one-on-one situation with a tackle so I can make a play there. Okay? So I can go over here, and they can go ahead and snap the ball. Can I get to the quarterback in time? Looks like we're going to be able to get to him. The key here is when you zoom out, you got a hat on a hat, meaning everybody's pretty much double team. We got a safety over these 2 guys, a safety over these 2 guys. There's just nobody going to be wide open down the field. So at this point, I've selected a defensive end. You can select a defensive tackle. It's up to you. And I want an isolation ordeal. And this is what we got right there. And I'm able to get around the tackle. Somebody got to the quarterback before me. But the reason why the quarterback really hasn't thrown it yet, because there's nobody open. This is a situation you want to be in. Right there. Okay, so let's do the whole thing again. They're going to call Hail Mary. We can do the 5 wide look. Again, go with your personnel. If you are a 3-3-5 team, like we can go like right 3-3-5 stack. And we can do a cover 2 man. If this is your go-to, then by all means do it. So what we're going to do, hit triangle up to do the prevent look. We're going to hit triangle to the right to man up on everybody, and then if you want, you can spread out your defensive line, and hopefully you can make a play on the quarterback, if they can. And this is what you want to see right there. Let's look, there was nobody open. The quarterback had time to throw. We were dropping 4 guys, or blitzing 4 guys, but look, there's just nobody open down there. It's going to have to be a pure luck situation in order for them to make a play on this particular situation. Well, that is it. I think I've covered about 10 or so of the main situations that I see when I play defense, when I'm going up against a good running team, what I like to do when I go up against a decent passing team, when you do your quarters, when I do a little zone blitz, when I go up, against a 3rd and long situation. If I feel like I'm going up against a really good dual threat quarterback, I can use a little spy or my own makeshift version of that. The 3rd and 4th and short with your goal line situation. And we talked a little bit about the Hail Mary. Hopefully, all of these pre-snap adjustments will make your defense a whole lot better. All right, guys. I'll talk to you later.